Hey guys, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Factually Opinionated podcast. I think that's
Yes.
right.
Yes, you are indeed correct.
Yes.
I
Anyway, so
hope
the
you're
fourth
correct.
episode, and my name is Nolanova. I hope you guys know me. Unfortunately, Tipper Tamber, my co-host, is not here today, but
He's
that's
busy
okay.
having a life right now.
Yeah, he's too busy for us. He doesn't love us anymore. But anyway, so like I said, I'm Nolanova, and I am joined by two guests today, by Mr. Birdman and the Monsieur XtremePsychosis.
What up?
So anyway, you guys want to say anything real quick before we get started, or?
Uh,
Hey, Mom.
all I'll say is at the time of this recording, this is the day after PAX South, I believe. I think PAX South either ends today or it ended
Yes,
yesterday.
ends today.
Okay, so yeah, the next podcast will definitely be covering that, but we'll be saving that
Yes.
all for the next one.
Yes. So next week's podcast. Oh gosh, are you okay, Birdman? Don't die.
I'm just coughing up a lung. I'll be fine.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So next week's podcast will be all about PAX South coverage. We'll have Rolex on. Hopefully, you guys got a chance to say hi to Rolex. He was at
On the
PAX South.
floor coverage.
On the floor coverage
Yeah.
for Rolex. He
Live.
met. See what we got. We met Adam Sessler. Got a picture with Sessler. Talked to got a to
He
work
got
with the
to
Omnibus director, Omnibus developer. That was really cool when he sent us that.
yeah. Yeah, he showed a picture that while he was in one of the exhibit halls, and they were showing some of the omnibus gameplay. It was like four-person multiplayer.
So if you guys haven't checked out Omnibus, please go ahead and go look it up. It's a really cool PS1 style game, and it's just you drive a bus around and cause havoc. It's very classic.
Yeah, it's
Type.
like a really old school, like physics-based, like havoc-wreaking game.
It's always the best
Yeah.
kind of games. Isn't it? It really is though. Like it's
Yeah.
always the best kind of game.
Just
So,
pure destruction.
but we will have more on that in the future. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some cool PAX South
Yeah.
exclusive information from Rolex and from others. So, but that's for the future. We'll let you guys know what's going on with that. But anyway, so you guys ready to go ahead and jump on in?
Let's do it.
All right.
do
So,
this.
as normal, you got your topics on the side of the screen.
Ba-boom, ba-boom.
Click the annotations to jump to them. And all right, so let's get on and started. And the first one is Far Cry Primal and Denuvo anti-piracy. Now, this is less of the fact of Far Cry Primal and more something I want to talk about, the anti-piracy. But it was recently announced that Far Cry Primal would be using the new Denuvo anti-piracy, anti-tamper tech. Now,
Yeah.
Denuvo is one of the newer types. It's been used on a couple games. It's sort of expensive, so it doesn't really go on many games at the moment.
Yeah, it's been
But
on a lot of really popular games though that I didn't know about. Like it's on Metal Gear Solid 5. I didn't know that.
yeah, a
Um,
lot of the new games have it.
yeah, Battlefront has it. Just Cause 3 has it.
Doesn't
Uh,
the Division have it, or am I thinking of something else?
Division is rumored to have it, but there's not been any releases of their EULA yet, so
All right.
it hasn't been confirmed.
However, what's interesting about Denuvo is it's actually currently being heralded as possibly the end of piracy. Now, that's not to say it hasn't been. That's not to say it hasn't been cracked. They have not cracked Denuvo games, but it takes them a lot longer to crack it.
Yeah, they use a really intricate series of encrypting and decrypting processes that basically is just continuously changing the information that it's encrypting and decrypting, so it makes it extremely difficult to crack. So it's very
Um,
interesting.
so I'm kind of interested to talk about that. I've heard that Denuvo. See, so here's my take on piracy. Um, I believe piracy is wrong. I mean, I do agree with a lot of people with everyone who says it is stealing, because it is. However, I have a lot. There's a kind of caveat with here. Sometimes, and I think a lot of people agree with this though. Sometimes developers go too far with their DRM policies,
Mhm.
and I think when you reach the point where digital rights management becomes anti-consumer, then that's the real problem. Like then you are you are gimping is not the right word I'm looking for, but gimping the fans who actually purchased the game in an effort to stop something that honestly I would think wouldn't have that much of an impact.
Yeah, and it's important to note too that Denuvo itself is not DRM, but it's used in tandem with existing DRMs. So like Origin or Steam license managements, like it works in tandem with those. It's not its own separate DRM to try to solve piracy issues.
But yeah, but I think there's definitely from what I'm seeing is that Denuvo uh, is a lot better system for handling cracking than I think a lot of like the DRMs. Because if you buy a game through Steam and you have SteamWorks DRM, that's fine. And if all they use is Denuvo, then you don't have any issues. As long as Denuvo I think Denuvo gets better and better. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens, whether it actually finally is the answer to piracy or not. Because
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what solution it would take to get rid of piracy, because it seems like every time something comes up, there's just another way of stealing it, basically.
well, yeah, but so I was reading something about Denuvo, and I don't remember what it was, but it was an interview with the head of a Chinese cracking group, and he was the one who was kind of saying, well, it's taken us a month and a half, and we still haven't cracked Just Cause 3 because of Denuvo. Now we're confident we will eventually be able to crack it, but as it gets better and better, as computers get faster and faster, Denuvo is going to be unstoppable, and that's what he was kind of saying. Like this is bringing in the end of pirating and the end of cracking, and it's kind of weird to think about that. Like there's a possibility that piracy is about to end.
Yeah, well, and this would be for gaming content only, correct?
Uh,
Like, or
I,
is it already being expanded over to like music
Music.
and movies and stuff like that, like torrenting?
I actually don't know.
Because that would
I
also be interesting.
I think
Very.
that Denuvo is right now just video games,
Yeah, that's what I figured.
but I'm not entirely sure.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's interesting that Ubisoft really seems to be grabbing this, um, especially with the UPlay service and the kind of the hate they've gotten from that. I think the DRM policies of UPlay.
Right.
So maybe they're trying to finally pull back the DRM from UPlay and use Denuvo exclusively.
Yeah. Birdman, what do you think about piracy for when it comes to video games?
I've honestly, I don't know. I've just actually, this is the first time I've ever heard of it. So I would love to give an opinion, but I'm with Matt. Piracy is bad.
We don't
Well,
pirate here at Justinium.
yeah. Well, and the weird thing about piracy when it comes to video games is like getting the game to work once you've actually taken it, right? So like a lot of people can find, let's say a torrent of Skyrim on some website and download it, but you still need a couple programs to make that torrent run if it's actually a good enough file to use anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a really long and strenuous process of actually getting a quality like crack of a game, and then actually having quality programs for somebody else to be able to run the game. So like piracy itself, when it comes to video games, already seems hard enough as is. So which is great. I don't think it should be easy. Um,
It should be easy at all for anything.
but I mean, if this keeps growing at the rate that it's being kind of advertised, then I mean, it's going to be unstoppable.
And it'll be interesting to see, um, you know, what ends up happening with that. It's like no, I completely agree with what you're saying though. Extreme. You know, you have to find the ideal game. You have to find a good crack that actually works. But I've actually been kind of surprised because I'm not gonna say that I've never gone on a torrent site and downloaded a game, and I'm not gonna say I've never done that.
Wait, so are you legally saying right now that you've used a torrent?
I have used it. Yes.
I can honestly say I haven't. So
This is an intervention, Nolanova. We've actually been needing to talk to you about this.
it's been affecting you.
No.
So anyway.
We've actually brought all your family here. Come on in, guys.
Come on, guys.
No, but
One
yeah,
second.
it's like a couple of like, it's not something I do anymore. But back, a couple years ago, I mean, I have been on websites and I have downloaded programs and I've tried cracked versions, and for me it's always been more of a full trial, and it's supposed to be like I use this in my daily life because, like I said, I completely, if I enjoy a product, I agree with supporting the developer, but at the same time it's like, if your trial is going to get me and not give me everything so I can really fully experience your software, that crack starts to look kind of nice. But yeah, back when I was a much younger man, and I did that. It's very difficult, but it's surprising how easy it is at the same time.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, companies do need to give you some kind of incentive to buy whatever product it is. And it's different between buying actual just software, like video editing software or like a digital audio workstation, versus buying just a game to play. So a demo for a game is obviously going to be lacking a lot of extra features, but it'll have the basic core mechanics. And the same thing with software. Like if you have editing software, it's going to have your basic cutting or splicing or separating tracks or whatever you're working with, but it's not going to have all the pizzazz on top. And that's what they're trying to incentivize you with, like paying for the full version rather than just keeping the trial version. So
that's one thing that I think Apple does very well with Final Cut, is that your trial version is completely full. Like the first 3 episodes, I think, of Project Traveler, which if you haven't checked out is on our YouTube channel.
oh
But
man,
the first, I think
forced plugs.
the first 3 episodes of Project Traveler, actually no, this was the first 5. The first 5 episodes of Project Traveler were done on a trial version of Final Cut Pro.
Yep.
And there's nothing to show for it. But of course, we love the software so much. It was like, this software works. We paid for it,
Mm-hmm.
But it was a full trial, so there was no reason to try to go get a cracked version or anything. But it's nice to see how everything's sort of cracking down. How everyone's sort of cracking down on that. That was weird. But yeah, it's nice to see how companies are really starting to crack down on that and get through that, because it's definitely not as easy as it once was.
Yeah.
So,
LimeWire is a thing of the past.
Indeed.
And it shall remain there.
Oh well. But yeah. So I think Denuvo is a cool technology if it can do what it does well and do what it does unintrusively.
Yeah.
And,
I think that's fair.
Yeah. And so Far Cry Primal, since that was the focus of the article, I only want to talk about it for a second. So Far Cry Primal, I don't know. I'm still on the fence. I think it's a really cool idea. Really cool. I don't know if it can hold up over like 10 hours or 10 to 15 hours of gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of games now that are kind of going to the like regression of technology, where a lot of games are kind of harking back to, this is what it was like in BC times, basically. And so instead of continuing on forward saying, like, this is the newest technology that we've decided could be a potential, piece of technology in the future, it's like, let's just go back to dinosaurs or something. So everyone likes dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, Ark Survival Evolved.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
Birdman, do you like dinosaurs?
Yeah, I love dinosaurs.
Okay. Are you
All
sure
right.
you like dinosaurs?
I'm very sure.
positive you like dinosaurs?
Last I checked, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to I like dinosaurs, how do you feel about dinosaurs?
I freaking love dinosaurs. Caught
Yes.
myself there.
Yeah,
I'm
that
proud
was
of
a
you.
good.
Speaking of dinosaurs, though, for real, it's totally off topic, but there's a new Land Before Time coming out on Tuesday.
Nope, I don't believe you.
I don't believe you either.
There's a new Land Before Time coming out on Tuesday.
Nope,
Dude,
Let's just pretend it didn't
that
happen.
movie was my childhood. Okay.
I'm not joking with you. Like I've been getting ads.
I'm looking this up. I'm looking this up right now.
I've been getting ads on YouTube about it. I'm like, what? It doesn't look very good, but type.
Yes.
Gotta see it for myself. I'm sorry. Oh, holy crap! You're right.
Don't watch a
Alright.
trailer. Don't watch a trailer. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not watching the
Don't do it.
trailer.
Okay, just saying. Don't watch a trailer. Watch it later. Blah.
Anything else about Denuvo before we move on?
No, I think that should be good. I don't have anything
Alright.
else. All right.
Yeah.
So
Smack, you weren't a liar.
topic number 2.
Hooray!
Whoa.
Atari.
Atari Vault. This is just something I thought was really cool, so I wanted to talk about it. They're releasing the Atari Vault, which is going to be 100 plus classic Atari games, and they're going to be releasing it on Steam.
Mhm.
So we're talking like Asteroids, Galaga.
Ooh.
I can't think of
I've brought a prop for you.
Pong.
and
Oh no,
This will be another game. It's on the list, by the way. But boom, Centipede.
Centipede.
For the PlayStation 1.
Oh gosh.
Oh Lord.
Oh,
man.
yes.
You know how old that is?
Let's see. 1999. Centipede and Atari are trademarks and copyright of Atari Interactive Incorporated.
Atari Interactive Incorporated.
Yeah. So the games are coming out with, like you said, Asteroids, Centipede, Missile Command, Tempest, Warlords, etc., etc., etc.
And
be a lot.
oh, sorry. Sorry. How you doing?
I was just saying it's going to be a lot, and the fact that these were all being previewed at PAX South this
Yes.
past weekend.
So I hope Mr. Rolex got to play some.
Yes. Hopefully he prioritized his time and left some time available for Atari.
So, oh, he could have interviewed an Atari executive. We're reading this off of a PR release from
Yeah, from prnewswire.com.
Yes. So yeah, but it's so what's saying is it's going to be enable fans to quote the article. Atari Vault enables fans to relive the classic gaming experience in the modern age with an upgraded user interface, the addition of online and local multiplayer options, and Steam controller support. For the first time ever, fans from around the world can challenge other players on leaderboards and compete for supremacy, all while rocking out to the game's original 70s and 80s soundtrack.
Oh, yes.
So it's also coming out in spring 2016. So
Yeah.
for me, this is really cool because I mean, I'm sure for you guys as well. Like, well, we're all the same age, so none of us really grew up.
Checked yes.
None of us really grew up in that era. No,
Yeah,
none of us grew up in that era. I don't know what I'm
We're
saying.
all
Really,
90s kids.
we're all 90s kids. So,
That's right.
so yeah, I mean, I've never played the original. I've never played these games with the original. I've played a lot of them in other forms.
I have.
Actually, I take that back. I probably have played. I think I've played original Asteroids.
There's an arcade in my hometown that opened up a few years ago, and they call themselves like a retrocade.
Ooh, interesting.
And so they have a crap ton of like the original arcade machines, and then they have a couple areas that are designated for like Sega Dreamcast. They have an Atari 2600 there, the NES original, like all this kind of stuff. It's amazing. And I've played some of the original. I've played Asteroids. I've played Centipede. And I've played a couple other games while I was there on the original Atari. So it's very interesting. Just kind of going back and seeing how technology has changed from kind of 70s and 80s up to today.
I think one of the craziest things about that was just like you go back and you realize you look up information about how games were made back in those days, and you just realize how much problem solving, how much reverse engineering they had to do just to get these games to fit. I mean, like when you think about and you go back and I recently bought during the Steam Winter Sale. I bought like Ultimate Doom, Doom 2, Duke Nukem 3D, like all those classic games. Those games on Steam were like 32 megabytes.
Yep.
All of them were less than 50 megabytes, and when you realize that like they had to put that on a cartridge that fit like 32 megabytes that only on a system that had 4 megabytes of RAM, when most systems nowadays come default with 8 gigabytes.
Yeah.
It's honestly incredible.
Well, and also when you think about how like arcade games, like when they're actually in the big arcade machines, how those operated, games like Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, um, or not Don, yeah, with Jumpman in it, not Mario, Jumpman. Those games had a finite number of levels that you could complete. It was 255 because back then they could only hold up to 256 like packets of data, basically. And so once you got to screen number 256 or level 256, that was the kill screen because the game couldn't hold any more information. And so it would just start bugging out and then you would lose and you couldn't continue playing. And
It,
so even just going from then on, like it's crazy how how we've gotten better at attributing memory to game systems and how we've gotten much better at compressing data down so it fits into these small now like disks. It's crazy.
I mean, just look at the PS4, which is currently using GDDR5 graphics video memory as its primary memory source.
Right.
And we're on DDR4, and it's crazy. It's honestly incredible.
Yeah,
just how far
I'm a
we've come.
I'm a huge fan of Dance Dance Revolution myself.
My game of choice.
Wow, that was
No surprise
so
there.
lame. Oh, that was so lame.
Dude, DDR Supernova, such a good game for PS2. But
More
anyway,
like DDR Nolanova, am I right?
I digress.
Ew.
No, no one would ever say
No.
that actually.
No, no.
You
Yeah,
suck.
I don't
I've seen
endorse
you
this at
dance.
all.
You're god awful. So no.
Wow.
That's all Birdman's here for is to just bring your morale down.
Apparently.
podcast.
See, I'm the pretty face and the guy that'll just talk ish. So
Yeah, good times. Good
So you're
times.
that's why I'm not
just-
here a lot. So,
So basically, just stare at Birdman's face as you listen to my soothing voice. My voice is not
Anyway.
very soothing at all. It's okay.
No, it's
So-
not.
But yeah, I mean, I like with this Atari. It's cool to see all these like collections because I know there's a lot of people who are kind of against like HD remakes and HD collections, but at the same time, this is a whole different beast. This is like the rare replay because
Yep.
the rare replay, I don't have Conker's Bad Fur Day. I've always wanted to play Conker's Bad Fur Day, but I wasn't old enough to play Conker's Bad Fur Day when it came out because I was like under 10 years old, and that
Yeah.
would have not been at all appropriate.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is it's basically the Atari version of Rare Replay, but with a much larger library and a lot more classic games that people are gonna recognize.
But at the same time, a lot less to do because those games are very similar in
Yes.
every level is the same.
Yeah, a lot of them have the same kind of like end game, and it's just dressed up to be a different game. Especially a lot of the sports games operate very similarly. But in
I-
either case, I'm excited.
One thing I did notice though, and what's surprising to me is at least from this news release, it seems that it's only coming to PC. That they have not announced any plans to bring it to consoles.
Yeah, if they did bring it to console, my first guess would be PlayStation. Simply because
Yeah.
Atari and PlayStation have already worked in the past, as you saw with my prop.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just kept it PC exclusive, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind
I
of
would
disappointing though.
It is, but it's not like you don't have a PC anyway.
I mean, I don't have a PC. What are you talking about? I'm
What
not
are you
recording
talking
this on a PC.
But speaking of PC, Atari is also planning on releasing Roller Coaster Tycoon World, which is going to be amazing.
I actually didn't know
I
that
hope.
Roller Coaster Tycoon was Atari.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's going to be
the more
sweet.
you know.
And that's also available for demoing at PAX South, as well
So-
as apparently Pride Fest. I don't know what that is, but it's apparently some mobile game that Atari is working on right now for iOS.
So if you're watching this and you're still at PAX South, I hate to inform you, but PAX South is over.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd still be there.
Why
but
are you still there?
they've probably kicked
But-
you out, hopefully.
But you missed Roller Coaster Tycoon World.
Yeah.
But it's available to demo this weekend.
As of recording, you can
Yes.
currently play it.
As of viewing, you can't play it anymore.
Right. Only the people who are recording this understand that it's available right now. If you're watching this at any other time, it's over.
I
I'm sorry.
I feel like maybe we
Sucks for
should
you.
start telling people when these are being recorded, so people understand how old the news is.
That's correct. Today is January the 31st of 2016.
And typically our episodes are filmed on the Fridays, but
Yeah.
we're doing it on Sunday today.
Yeah, it's Super Bowl Sunday.
No, it's not.
That's next Sunday.
It's next Sunday.
Next Sunday, it's Super Bowl Sunday.
Ugh.
It's close
See,
enough.
this is how much we know about sports. So
Yeah.
Sports? What's sports?
Sports ball.
go sports.
Get
What
the
are we on?
points. do the
NHL
things.
16, something like that.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I do sports. Come on, boys.
I know you do.
Don't
sports.
do this to me. Don't do this to me.
You do the sports.
Running's
sports ball.
not a sport.
It is a sport. It's in the Olympics.
All right.
Track and field, if you were wondering.
I'm not getting any good. I'm not getting any good transitions this time around. Like
Yeah.
we need Wafael because he gives the best transitions.
Yeah.
But I think we need to move on to the next.
Well, you know
topic.
what? I guess you could say you didn't like that transition, even though it was getting some good reviews, so you're just going to pull it.
Yeah, just like Scott
Speaking
Cawthorn
of stream,
this week pulled Five Nights at Freddy's World from Steam.
Hooray.
So for those of you who maybe don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, I don't know how you wouldn't
you'd have
know.
to live in a cave for
You
like the
have to live
past
in a-
5 years.
But if you
Insert-
don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is. Sorry, go ahead, Extreme.
I was just going to say insert jump scare here. Like just put like yeah, put Freddy like his face just on the screen for a brief second and then just say that's Five Nights at Freddy's.
But anyway, so if you don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, Five Nights at Freddy's is a horror game. It's a series of 4 horror games where you play. For the first 3, you play as a security guard, and you're working at this like Chuck E. Cheese style pizza place arcade. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
We can't say Chuck E. Cheese.
Use not a shut up. but yeah,
Well pursued.
so it is yes, so in a like a pizzeria chain, and at night the animatronics who dance on stage come to life and try to kill well they don't really try to kill you. They see you as a human and you're supposed to be in a suit, so they stuff you in a suit, which does kill you.
No, they see you
alert.
as an animatronic without a suit, so they try to stuff you into a suit.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Night at the Museum, except not funny.
Huh.
Except the T-Rex is going to try and put you into into Teddy Roosevelt or something.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so if you've been living under a cave and haven't been on YouTube in like the last year,
If you don't know who Markiplier is,
yeah, I mean, let's see, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, PewDiePie, who else I know
Love
has
Markiplier.
played it? Hello, everyone. My name is Markiplier, and welcome to
you can't
back
use that
to
either.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
you can't
4.
use that intro.
And
We're
then the
actually
fourth
gonna
one,
cut that out. Yeah. It's,
with the fourth one, you play as a little kid in his bedroom, scared of monsters, of, like nightmare animatronics. But anyway, so horror game, big story. Oh yeah, if you want to go find out all about the story, go watch Game Theory by Matt Pat.
all right.
But so Scott Cawthorn, the developer of the Five Nights at Freddy's series, decided to release a not horror game based on the Five Nights at Freddy's characters. It's an RPG style game called Five Nights at Freddy's World. I don't know much about it. I haven't played it. I haven't really seen much about it. I just knew it existed. However, so Scott said he was going to release it in February. For those of you again who don't know, Scott Cawthorn does not release things on time. He says he's going to release things and he releases them a month early.
Yep.
So
Classic.
he said, "Oh, it's gonna be out in like mid-February," and then he released it in mid-January. So he released it. It was out, and people were playing it, and it was getting really positive reviews. I mean, according to his announcement, he had 87% positive rating on Five Nights at Freddy's World. But Scott says he was not satisfied, so he pulled the game from Steam to work on it some more, and then he gave full refunds to everybody, regardless how much time you played.
Trying to give full refunds. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but he's working it out with Steam to give people refunds for the game.
Yeah, he's trying to give everyone refunds for regardless of how long they've played. So So basically, he pulled it because he wasn't happy with it. And to me, that's kind of awesome. Like the fact that Scott as an indie developer has had so much success that he can release a game, people really love it, but he says, no, I'm not fully satisfied with this, and pulls the game. For me, that shows a lot about our industry. Where this is a surprising thing. We had Arkham Knight on PC, which did terrible, and Warner Brothers pulled it because it was so terrible. And they were like, we're going to fix it and re-release it. But they didn't offer refunds. They didn't try to have a community or help the community. They didn't try to, they didn't try to make things better. They just said, we'll release patches and then we'll fix if you have it. And then we'll fix the game. Actually, I think they did give it away to people. I think it was like if you already bought it, you still got it for free. But still, it's like, Battlefield 4, terrible launch. Oh, we'll fix it. 5 months later, it still didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this just shows kind of an obvious contrast between big game developers versus indie developers, and kind of the interests of said developers when it comes to creating a game that is worth playing and is enjoyable for the fans.
Yeah.
So even as someone who has released 4 successful games, he gets a 5th one, releases it, and even though it has an 87% very positive rating, he's still not satisfied and says, you know what, I can do better. The people deserve better. And so not only is he pulling it, but he's going to make it available for free in the future as well.
Yeah.
So he's going to be putting it on Game Jolt and Steam for free in the future. And so he's going to take the current game, put it up there later, and then as he's working on it, he's basically just going to patch it, and everybody gets to play it. So I think that's really awesome.
That is really awesome.
But that kind of opens us up to a bigger conversation about AAA game publishers, like you were saying, AAA game publishers versus indie developers, and the state of the industry. Because, like the industry, I'll be honest, I'm so proud of the video game industry because for me, you've had movies, you've had music for years and years, and to me, I don't feel like you get your money's worth out of anything except gaming, because with a CD can speak to you, but at the same time, a CD is 50 minutes maybe for like $15 to $20 if you buy it on iTunes, it's $10, but anywhere from $10 to $20 for 50 minutes of music. A movie ticket is like $15 to $20 for 2 hours. A video game is $6.
I don't know where you're watching movies.
That's not really expensive.
A ticket?
Yeah. Yeah, usually tickets are like $7 to $10.
14,
7 to 11.
$14 for Star Wars.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah.
But I mean that was
Star Wars.
default ticket price at that theater.
Yeah.
I paid $11 for that.
Of course, I guess it depends on the theater you're going to, because I went to a really nice theater with like a bar.
Fair enough. But I mean, this kind of also can branch off into the idea of deciding the value of the products that you're selling.
Yeah.
So is an album that comes out that provides you with only 50 minutes of music, is that worth paying, $15 or $20 for? Are you getting your money's worth out of it? And the same for games. I know Funhouse has definitely talked about this. The whole kind of idea, should it be like you get $1 or an hour for every dollar you spent on the game, or is there something more? I don't know. It's definitely something that is worth looking into when deciding the pricing of video games as a whole.
And one thing for me, sorry.
I was just going to say, because $60 right now has just kind of become the standard. And whether or not that's a good number is it remains to be seen. But there are definitely some games that are not worth $60 and some games that are worth way more than 60, but you pay 60 anyway.
Battlefront.
Yes.
I love Battlefront. All right.
I'm going to assume you're talking on the not worth 60, but you paid 60 for it.
I actually haven't bought it yet. I just haven't been over to GameStop to get it.
Yeah.
I actually bought it, so
I mean, it's not a bad
but I
game
love
by any
it.
means. But yeah. So the point I was making was crap. What was the point I was making?
I don't know.
uh,
You were about to
oh
tell
yeah, no,
us,
so
but
yeah. So movies. So yeah. So move for at least for me, my movie tickets always been between $10 and $20 for $2 for 2 to 3 hours worth of entertainment. Video games, on the other hand, are $60. Are $60, but we're talking 10 to 20 at least hours of entertainment for most games.
Well, yeah, for AAA titles.
But even for some indie games, I mean, indie games are usually cheaper. But it's it's one of those things where it's like that's why I play video games. That's why I don't really watch movies. That's why I don't really uh, I mean I listen to music, but that goes hand in hand. But yeah, that's why I do video games over like movies or really TV because it's interactive and it's worth my money. Uh, so that's what got me into video games. That's what keeps me into video games. That's why video games are my hobby. But it's interesting to to think about that and see how far the industry has come to where as it keeps growing, it's becoming a business. I mean, it's been a business, but it's becoming more and more and more of a business as time goes on. And so it's not like what can we do creatively? It's what can we do that's going to make us the most money.
Yeah, and I mean that's how I feel about a lot of kind of long-lasting series, especially games like Call of Duty, where it's basically just pumping out a game every year.
Oh my gosh.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed, even though they did finally delay the newest one, I think it's Empires. They delayed
Supposedly,
it for another year, supposedly. Yeah,
and supposedly they're going to a 2 year
yeah,
cycle on that now.
yeah, exactly, which I think is great. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're kind of just pumping them out, like if they had a contract or something, like you need to release X amount of games in X amount of time, or else you're gonna not fulfill the contract and lose a bunch of money. Whereas sometimes you have games like Halo had how many years between each release? Like at least with the core series,
Halo
like
1 was 2001, Halo 2 2004, Halo 3 2007, Halo Reach, so 3 years. Halo Reach 2010.
yeah, a long time basically compared to other games, and each one of those games lasted you basically until the next one.
Yes.
So like I played Halo 3 up until Reach came out, and I wasn't bored with Halo 3 even when Reach came out. Um, so yeah, I think the longer the companies or publishers are willing to take with the game, I think they'll find that the fans are more willing to actually pay the money for it and actually get something enjoyable out of it that'll last until the next big game that comes out.
And one of those things you actually bring up a really good point about Call of Duty. This is something I would like to talk about as one of our kind of discussion topics in the future is Call of Duty and the future of Call of Duty. So you may see that sometime, folks. Um, but like for me, I love Call of Duty. I'm just gonna be honest. Like Call of Duty 4 was a great game. That wasn't my big Call of Duty game. Call of Duty World at War was my favorite Call of Duty game of all time. Modern Warfare 2, I put so much time in that. I think I ended up with about 4 days played in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I had about 10 days of gameplay in Modern Warfare 2 before I sold it.
and so, well,
I lost
yeah,
count.
I was like fourth prestige, and I actually I was like I had a goal of getting a 10th prestige, and then Black Ops was fun, like awesome. Zombies was better. The multiplayer was all right, but um,
Yeah.
and then from there
Eh.
on it kind of went downhill. And it's like, you know, instead of Activision saying, "Well, our sales are decreasing, we should probably do something to fix that," they did think that, and their response was, "Let's add another developer." So we have 3 years between games instead of just being like, let's give it a year between games because that would make sense. But that would make sense, and Activision would not make money. Activision was just like, we're making enough money, even though our sales are falling. And I'm really actually kind of disappointed that Black Ops 3 did so well. And they hate to say that because Black Ops 3 is not a bad game. I mean, the zombies is fun. Uh, I don't like the multiplayer very much, but I kind of wish it hadn't done as well as it did, because now it gives Activision an incentive to keep making Call of Duty games. And you see this, and it's like Five Nights at Freddy's 4 Five Nights at Freddy's games that came out within all 4 of them came out within like a year.
Right.
And by 4, people were kind of tired of it, but at the same time, it literally didn't change up the formula. It was kind of the indie Call of Duty in a sense.
Right. It's the kind of the trend these days of games and their sequels kind of just having this very formulaic style to them, where the game that follows right afterwards is basically the game that came out before it, but with some slight modifications, a newer environment, all these different things. So like Call of Duty, you have new maps. Some of the guns change around, some of the guns stick around. Between games from the same company, Zombies itself kind of has the same basic gameplay to it, but the maps are changing. How you win changes, all that kind of stuff.
What's funny about Zombies? Sorry, Birdman, I'll give you 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's funny about Zombies, though, is you said that. I mean, yeah, the formula hasn't changed, but I still have a ton of fun going back to like World at War maps and playing Zombies on them. Because I don't know what it is. The new Zombies map is not that great, but on Black Ops 3. But I mean, that has just never gotten old. Zombies has always been fun. I don't know why that really is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Birdman, what do you want?
Well, what I'm thinking about is like, because for Call of Duty, we went from like World War II to like futuristic. But it's like, my thing is, where would they go from there? Like for Assassin's Creed, like they could do whatever time period they want. Like, so my question is like, where would they go from there?
It's Call of Duty Primal. They're gonna go back and hunt dinosaurs and ride
Primal.
and ride around
gosh.
on velociraptors and kill people.
I would play that game. I would
not.
I'd play the demo, but they probably wouldn't come out with a demo.
All I know is that I kind of want to save. I kind of want. I mean, well, we're at 42 minutes. We can delay some discussion. We'll come back to it in the future. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm at that point where I want to see stuff go back to World War II. It's I don't know. For me, it's one of those things where we haven't had a good World War II game in a long time.
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily the most fun era to explore, given the history of World War II. But to be fair, there hasn't been a lot of newer creations in terms of futuristic technology. We're kind of at a stopping point right now where basically everything that is quote unquote like futuristic, you can kind of just imagine what it's going to be. It's probably got something to do with either AI control or I don't know, something to do with lasers maybe. I don't know. But it's always fun to go back and at least, at Birdman, like you were talking about Assassin's Creed, when you go back and you go to these different eras in our past, you can see how they kind of limit the character and what they're allowed to do and how they have to adapt the gameplay to fit the time period that they're a part of. So no longer do you have, guns and stuff like that. You have to worry about conserving your arrows or using a hatchet or something like that. And so the gameplay suddenly shifts and you have like a change of mentality basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know for me though, like the big conversation kind of right now and my interests is Battlefield, because EA has announced there will be a new Battlefield this year. It'll be made by DICE Stockholm, so it'll be a core entry in the series. But we're at that point where people are like, well, what's the next Battlefield going to be? And so a lot of people are thinking, well, it's going to be Battlefield 2143, going into the future because everything else is going future. But it was interesting because Jack Frags, who's a huge, I don't know if you guys know Jack Frags, he's a huge Battlefield YouTuber. It's primarily Battlefield content. He has been invited to EA to test Battlefield games. He's got a solid following, but he did a poll of his viewership. And of course, it's not all inclusive, but I think about 20,000 people responded. And so it was, where would you like to see the next battlefield? World War I, World War II, Vietnam, modern, or futuristic? Actually, no, sorry. It wasn't Vietnam. It was World War I, World War II. Oh, sorry. World War I, World War II, modern, near future, or futuristic. And, he was kind of saying, where he was offering his opinions on everything. But the poll came back in, and it was World War II. I mean, it was World War II by a landslide, like 50%, like more than half of the votes were for World War II. And so it's, I think a lot of that is because, like I said, we haven't had a good World War II game in years. And a lot of the argument is, well, we haven't had a good, we did World War II for like 10 years straight. We had Medal of Honor, we had Call of Duty up to 5, skipping 4, we had Battlefield, we had Brothers in Arms.
You still have like Verdun, like those kind of like trench style warfare games that are very, very reminiscent of the older like World War II esque genre.
Yeah, but then you have like Red Orchestra. There's a lot of there was a lot of World War II back in the day, but we haven't had a good World War II game for almost 10 years at this point, because the last major release. Okay, well, sorry, there was an arcade release, Battlefield 2143, I think in like 2010, but that really wasn't a full title. But Call of Duty World at War was kind of like the last big World War II shooter.
Yeah,
and that was 2008, and it's 2016. So I think just like World War II, at least in the past, is where people want to go back to the roots. I think a lot of people want to see, because I know that for me, I'm tired of futuristic stuff. I'm Advanced Warfare was cool because Call of Duty did something different. It was a lot of fun. But then when Black Ops 3 came out and was like, we're basically doing the same thing, just slightly different. It was literally Call of Duty repeating itself. It was frustrating because it was like, for me, Ghost was terrible. I hated Ghost. The only reason I got Ghost was because I wanted one for a next-gen console. And then I was like, well, if Call of Duty does something radically different, I will get the new one. And then, of course, I'll get the Treyarch game when it comes out because zombies. So Advanced Warfare did something completely different. You had the exosuits, you had the jump pack, and you could more emphasis on the verticality gameplay. And I thought Advanced Warfare was a fantastic game. I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I loved Advanced Warfare. I was actually really good at it too. But then Black Ops 3 came out, and it's like, well, we have this motion system that's like a lot more fluid, but at the same time, you have a jump pack, you have wall running, you have clamoring. It's like, this is basically Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty Treyarch style.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the obsession with kind of the World War II era is very similar to kind of like the modern obsession with steampunk. Kind of just like you were saying, going back to our roots and seeing where everything kind of originated. The Industrial Revolution itself is kind of just an amazing time period to explore, regardless of what kind of a game you're playing. Like, even if you're playing a game like Civ 5, for example, and your empire begins to go through the Industrial Revolution, you kind of see how quickly technology advances in such a short period of time relative to the rest of time itself. And that's kind of amazing, and it allows for much more diverse content, whether you're talking about a first-person shooter or an RPG or whatever you want to play. It allows you to kind of create what wasn't created and make anything possible without going too over the top, like robot stuff in the future and all this blah blah blah.
Yeah, and I'd definitely like to see, I want to see the past come back. I really do. I know people are going to argue, but the future, you really can't go anywhere anymore with the future until you get into sci-fi. I mean, you've got Halo, you've got Crisis, you've
Mass
got
Effect.
Mass Effect, you've got Call of Duty's going there now. If Battlefield goes there, they'll have Battlefield. You've got all these big games that are futuristic and have been sci-fi and exploring that world. And no one's exploring the past anymore. And I'd love to see a new World War II or even a new Vietnam game. I love Vietnam. For me personally, it's a lot of the history. I'm a World War II history buff, and I love Vietnam history because it's just so applicable to our culture today. Because the World War II veterans are unfortunately they're mostly gone at this point. A lot of them passed away, and their sacrifices will never be forgotten. But Vietnam, most of our fathers and grandfathers, I won't say, well, not most of them fought, but they were all able to fight at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know my dad just missed Vietnam. Just missed the draft.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, and the kind of the thing with every generation is the kind of the idea that retro is what's hip.
that is
And
true.
that just kind of takes place regardless of what time period you're in. It's always kind of the past and the way things used to be at a certain point in the present becomes what's cool and what is kind of on people's minds and what people want to explore more of. And so for us, even though like if you look at music, we're starting to kind of go back to the whole 70s, 80s style of music. Video games are beginning to become more past centered rather than future centered, even though we already have more than enough advanced technology to kind of envision possibilities of what futuristic technology could be. We're using our advanced technology to make better like renderings of the past, basically, which is a weird thought, but I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, retro has always been hip. And as long as that seems to be the case, then I think a lot of games are going to be, they're going to have a couple series where it's going to be going into the future. It's like, okay, now that technology has advanced even further, what ideas do we have again of the future? But then after a while, they're going to start going back and saying like, okay, where did we come from? What are the roots? Let's go back and see where it all began.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, I think we should probably go ahead and move on to the final topic
I agree.
because
Same.
we're about just past 50 minutes here, 53 minutes. So, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the last topic and go ahead and wrap up with that. Okay, so like I said, Five Nights at Freddy World has been pulled from Steam. It will be releasing for free. If you guys want to check that out, we will definitely be doing it here at Vicinity. We might be streaming it. You never know.
Yeah. Timber Timber could play
Yeah. Huh.
Yes.
because
yes.
he loves to play horror games.
All right. So
No, I love to play horror games.
So
He does.
something.
I mean, you can play too.
So something we decided.
Sorry.
We decided to do starting last week, and it's something I think we're going to keep doing indefinitely. I definitely enjoy it. There's a lot of YouTube channels out there. So in case this is your first episode, I'm going to go ahead and just give you quick background information. There's a lot of YouTube channels out there. Some of the ones I watch: Review Tech USA, Boogie2988. People
Boogie.
like that. People like that. They make videos discussing topics. Jim Sterling, Jimquisition, like they have entire videos discussing their opinion on a topic. Now, that's something we don't do here at Vicinium, but we do have a podcast, and so we've decided that we're going to start doing something very similar and taking a topic and discussing it like one of those videos, but doing it with multiple people and doing it in the podcast. So our topic for this week is, when should games be announced?
Never.
Now, for me, this is something.
Surprises for everyone.
That actually be cool. That would actually be really cool, though.
So, this is something that's kind of personal for me. This is something that I have vested a lot of interest in, and I have a very strong opinion on it. So I'm interested to hear y'all's points on it. This kind of started for me. This thought started with Fallout 4 because Fallout 3 came out in 2008. Fallout New Vegas came out in 2010, and Skyrim came out in 2011. And for the longest time, we didn't hear anything. And there was a lot of speculation in the Fallout community.
Yeah, Bethesda really kept their lips sealed about anything after Skyrim came out.
Which was impressive. That the only thing that got leaked was to Kotaku, and that was December of 2013. And then we still didn't hear anything about the game until June 2015.
Yeah.
So what was nice about that was June 2015 to November 2015. We only had to wait, less than 6 months to get the actual game from the official reveal. However, are you okay there, Birdman?
Looked like he was swatting a fly.
Sorry, my headset just keeps turning off and on, so I'm just fixing it every now and again.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So it caught me off, like it turned off. I was surprised, and then a pin dropped. So very sorry.
Everything's going on at once.
We're just checking in on you, bud.
Yeah, but so
I'm only going mentally crazy. So other than that, pretty good.
Gotcha. So we only had to wait a couple of months to get the game, which was nice. However, there was just so much hype and so much speculation for that game. It was honestly ridiculous. And so, but at the same time, you have games like Watch Dogs, which were revealed in 2012, and The Division, which again was revealed in 2013. Saw gameplay at every E3 until it released. Watch Dogs was 2014, and The Division is gonna be this year.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten footage at 2013, 2014, and 2015's E3s. And so, then you have the argument of the hype is the hype. You get overhype, or people lose interest in the game. So that's what I'm kind of thinking is when should games be announced? Because you have overhyping a game that's announced too early, or you have like overly high expectations for a game that's announced too late.
Yeah. Birdman, I want you to talk on this one. Can you hear us, Birdman?
Hello, Birdman.
I can hear you. Sorry, what was the question?
So what's your opinion on the timing of game releases? Like when is too early and when's too late?
To announce one.
All right. Well, I think too early is like what we did for The Division and Watch Dogs, like 3 years very early, or like 3, 4, like just years, I think is too long of a wait. I would say I think 6 months would be a good time. Like you announce it, you show some gameplay footage throughout the 6 months, and then you release the game.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think you should be able to release a game, or you should be able to talk about the release of an upcoming game once your basic gameplay work is complete. Because you don't want to be, doing a release trailer or something like that and still have 3 months worth of gameplay stuff to be working on. Because once you do that, you still have to go through testing. You still have to go through all these number of processes to finalize just the gameplay itself, not let alone any kind of advertisement for the game, stuff like that. It's a long time, and if you don't allot a proper amount of time to it, then the result is going to be quite lacking, as we saw with Battlefield 4. But I agree that anything over a year, I think, is way too long, because it's going to be hyped up at first, but if there's not a huge following with it, like for example, let's say Half-Life 3 got announced today, but it wasn't being released until January of 2016 or 2017, excuse me. Then
that'd be a very long time.
There'd be a lot of hype following it, but who's to say that hype is going to stay there for a full year?
Do you know how long we've been waiting for Half-Life 3?
Right. So
Do you know
Half-Life
how long
3,
we've been waiting for that?
That's what I'm saying. So Half-Life 3 might work because of how long people have been anticipating any kind of trilogy from Valve.
Any sort
Especially
of game from Valve.
Yeah, but especially Half-Life 3. But if you did it, let's say, Fallout 4 hadn't been released yet, and they announced it today, and it was coming out next year, next January, I would feel like the hype would be there for up to like 6 months, and then people would kind of forget about it, especially when the holiday season starts coming around, and other games start popping up. A lot of sales start happening, potentially like new releases of like trailers for consoles, even like we're starting to get there. So you don't want it to be too long because then people are going to start forgetting about it as well.
Didn't Now correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't like I remember Duke Nukem came out like years ago, and didn't that have like a long time before it came out? Or
10 years.
Yeah.
I think that is a perfect example for this.
Well, at the same
Yeah.
time, the thing with Duke Nukem is it went through development hell.
There's that.
It went through like 5 different developers before
Yeah.
Gearbox finally got it and completely ruined it. I'm sorry. I know you're a huge Gearbox fan, but Gearbox, the only thing they do well is Borderlands. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I don't really care.
And there's nothing wrong with Borderlands.
Borderlands is
I
a
love it.
great game, but this is the
Yeah.
only thing Gearbox can do well.
Ooh, shots.
I mean,
Fired.
Duke Nukem was terrible. Alien Colonial Marines, we don't even talk about.
What?
What is
What are you
this?
talking about?
What is this game? I don't know what you're talking about.
Neither do I. You said it, so I'm just trying to figure out what you're talking about.
I don't understand what I don't. What is this? Aliens? What are aliens? I don't know. Colonial Marines? That doesn't sound right.
No, it can't
It
possibly.
sounds like something Trump would love.
Anyway,
Nothing.
Let's avoid the political comments.
Nothing.
yeah. So, Nolanova, what about you? What do you think?
All right. So here's my thing on it. I think that there is, there needs to be a two-prong aspect to it. And this is something I think that EA is actually, there's very little I'll compliment EA on, but I think they did this very well. We know there's a new Battlefield coming out. We know it's going to be a return to a military setting.
Obviously.
That's it. That's all we know.
Yay.
So, I mean, it's kind of to be expected. But at the same time, we know it's happening. You know, it was with Fallout 4, there's probably a new Fallout coming. I mean, they bought the license. They've only made one game. But we know nothing about it. We haven't even heard of it. We don't know if it actually exists. They could be working on some new IP. And so, you know, my thing is that I think that video game companies need to make an announcement without revealing anything early on.
You want to make the people crave. You want them to want more.
Basically, what you're talking about is
Just
just like teaser trailers.
Not even a trailer. I don't even want a trailer. I want nothing to show. I don't want nothing shown. But like, so basically, Fallout 4 is a great example because, like I said, it's my favorite game series, and it's so this was kind of a big deal to me. So Fallout 4 wasn't announced until June of 2015. They wouldn't even talk about it. What I would have liked to have seen from Bethesda was this. They announced Skyrim has finished development and we're moving on to our next project. That's all they said. So everyone was like, well, we think it's going to be Fallout 4. What I would have liked to have seen was we have finished development on Skyrim. We are moving on to our next project, a new entry in the Fallout series. That's it. No more information. You don't even have to say what it's about, where it is, anything. Just tell us what you're doing. Let us in on the loop.
Well, I think in that situation, though, I think being more vague and just saying they're moving on to the next project, that in and of itself will cause it causes a stir among the public. Because if you say it's a Fallout game, or it's a new entry in the Fallout series, then you're losing any of the like mystique of what even could the game be. Like, granted, they didn't say that, like in your situation, they wouldn't have said anything about the location, the time period, et cetera, et cetera. But knowing that it's a Fallout game, that's some of the mystery that's taken away that they can reveal later on, like they did at E3.
And that's fair for like for a game like Fallout, because there are those people who are Bethesda fans who would like immediately as soon as it's Fallout they'll discount it. But at the same time, you're not going to get them anyway. Like people who aren't going to play Fallout games aren't going to get into Fallout no matter when you announce it.
Well, then I guess you could say if they don't like specify that it's a Fallout game, then the general hype is going to be much larger because you're getting people who wouldn't necessarily play a Fallout game, but they support Bethesda and are interested to see what the game is going to be. You're attracting a larger audience by being more generalizing with it, rather than immediately cutting off a percentage of people who may not enjoy necessarily Fallout, but they like other Bethesda games.
If I could say something, I kind of like the just like leaving it like, all right, we're moving on to a new project. Like it's like Christmas. Like you see a present under a tree and it has your name on it, and you don't know what it is, but you're just anticipating what it is. Like it could be anything. Like it could be Fallout. It could be heck. It could be a new Skyrim or
Yeah,
Elder Scrolls.
like going with that analogy, the way that
Sorry?
they did it, I was just saying, going with your analogy, the way they did it is kind of like if you showed up, you woke up on Christmas and there's one present under your tree, and it's in a very just generic box. Like it's not an obvious shape or anything. It's just a generic box with generic wrapping on it, no note or anything. It just says like, "To you from Santa." Whereas if they specified that it's a Fallout game, that would be like you receiving a bicycle with wrapping around it, but
Yeah.
you don't know what kind of bicycle it is, and you don't know, is it a mountain bike, is it a town bike, and you don't know. There's a couple of specifics you don't know, but you know it's a bicycle. So immediately you have kind of an idea of how you're going to react to it. Whereas the other one leaves you like, oh my gosh, it could be anything.
And I think, and it's like Bethesda is a really good. Sorry, I'm losing my words. They make good games,
Yes.
so literally it could be a new project, and I think that'd be kind of cool, seeing a new project or possibly a new series that starts, which completely original, which is rare nowadays. But
Yeah, Elder Scrolls Online too.
But at
What?
this, but so here's what actually a good point you bring on with that I'm going to bring into my argument, or at least in my opinion. I don't really want to try to make this an argument, but
Yeah, because you're gonna lose. But go ahead.
Bring it on.
Here's the thing on that note actually, because I feel like in that case, if that were to happen, if they say, "Oh, we're moving on," and people are saying, "Well, it's probably a new Fallout," and the way the Fallout community hyped over everything, that's kind of what I'm looking at the whole community as a whole, necessarily in this opinion more than just my personal thoughts. But if everyone's like, "Oh, it's Fallout," they keep hyping it up and looking into every little thing, and then suddenly they come out and say, "Oh, we're actually making this new IP." And we've been waiting 2 years to hear a Fallout announcement, and they give us something else, then it's just disappointing the fans completely.
Well, I mean, you could say it is disappointing to a certain extent, but then again, they didn't specify that it was Fallout, so it's not like they got their hopes up specifically for Fallout, and then they immediately just got let down, and they don't ever want to trust Bethesda. Whereas if they said like it's a Fallout game, and then they deliver, and it's not up to the expectations of the people, then you've really let everybody down.
Well,
So
Fallout 4 did that anyway.
Well, I mean, maybe for you, but there are people who really enjoy Fallout 4.
No, I enjoy the game. It's just that the community. The point I'm making is the Fallout community. On that note, that regardless, that is what happened, because we were hyping up Fallout because we didn't know for sure, but we still hyped it up.
Yeah.
And so then when it came out and was revealed and seemed really cool, and then we hyped it even. It was like, oh my gosh, the god hidden game is here. Holy crap, our Half-Life 3 has been revealed. It just got way overhyped, I think.
Yeah. Well, then, in that scenario, though, you can't necessarily blame the publisher,
No.
because to a certain extent, that's just the community's fault for putting too much or setting too high of expectations for a game that they've been waiting for a few years on. Um, the publishing company can only do so much in terms of creating the actual game, and creating kind of their own storyline that they've got in mind,
Yeah.
creating the setting, and so on. Um, and if they think it's worthy of being, the next in the series, then that's fine. But if the community wants to build it up to be like this perfect game that we've been waiting all of our lives for, and then it's not the perfect game, then yeah, there's going to be some disappointment. But that's not the cause of the publisher, from either producing a bad game or from announcing it too early or too late or anything like that.
No, and I agree with that completely. I mean, the publisher is not to blame. And Birdman, yes.
Yeah, my earphones are about to die. Is it okay if I get like just some buds
Yeah,
for
that's
the
fine.
Sure.
rest of this thing?
Yep.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. I'll be right back.
Hello, ears.
Rip headphone users.
But yeah, so we have like, we will have an echo if I don't.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
But Birdman, those have a mic on them.
Where?
On the
right earbud.
thing with all the buttons.
Oh.
That's a mic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's probably not as good quality, to be honest, though.
but okay. Anyway, we'll talk about it later.
Well,
We'll talk about that later.
I thought you were talking about these with the mic. So
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
All right.
we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later.
All right. You were saying?
Yeah. What was I saying? But that's not the publisher's fault. The publisher doesn't have any influence over the community and the decisions they make and the hype they give the game. But I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, what's the best way of doing that? What's the best way of announcing? Because okay, it's nice when the game comes out 6 months after announcement. It's like the Division at this point. I'm hoping the Division is good. But I feel like it would have been much better suited for Ubisoft to, maybe not even in 2013, whatever, just say, this probably works better for new games, new IPs, more than an established series. But just to give a PR announcement, just say, like, hello, we're Ubisoft. And actually, I think Quantum Break did this very well. This is Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft Montreal. We are currently working on this new game. It is called The Division. It will be a third-person shooter. You don't have to even get that much detail, but The Division, it'll be like a third-person shooter based in a post-apocalyptic New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's kind of like, for me at least, I hear that and I go, huh, that sounds kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it, and then when they come and release gameplay footage, I'm like, then I judge for myself whether I'm actually interested in the game or not.
Yeah, I mean, and that's definitely, like you were saying, it's very publisher dependent. For a publisher like Bethesda, they don't come out with games very often. They're not like Activision. They're not like Ubisoft. They're not pumping out games like every year. So when they do bring up a game, it's fairly safe to assume that it's going to be a continuation of one of two big projects that they've done.
Yeah.
And that it's going to be a pretty good game, if not a great game. And they're not going to be doing any kind of new series anytime soon that I can think of. Especially now with like Elder Scrolls 6, apparently there's been some like leaked info about it. I'm not too sure.
I don't know.
But
We'll find out.
yeah, like Bethesda would benefit more from just saying we're working on our next project, whereas a company like Ubisoft, like you were saying, they would definitely a lot more benefit from saying we're working on our next project. It's called The Division, and just give like a very brief description of it so that people know when they say new project, they mean like an actual like separate game from a series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is, I think Quantum Break did it very well because, if you watch Quantum Break's announcement videos, it's not done perfectly because they still show. I think Quantum Break showed gameplay way too early. But if you watch, he's like, "Hello, I'm Sam Lake, design director at Remedy," and so immediately I'm like, "Well, Remedy, Alan Wake, Max Payne, cool." Good developer. I really like what they have to offer. So I hear that. It's like, okay, so Remedy's doing something. Well, what is Remedy doing? We're doing this time-based shooter called Quantum Break. And it's like, okay, cool. Time-based shooter. What does that mean? But all he has to say is that it'll be a time-based shooter where you control time. And you can manipulate it to your will.
Wanted weapons of fate.
That sounds like, basically. But that sounds...
God.
But I hear that, and I go, okay, I like Remedy Entertainment. I loved Alan Wake. Haven't really played Max Payne, but I know it's a good, solid
Max
series.
Payne's fun. Max Payne's fun.
I loved Alan Wake. It was a great story game. This sounds really cool, but you're not going to start my hyping or my thoughts on it. But I can speculate. I can be like, well, what could this game do? That'd be interesting. And actually, that's a good point. Now I think about it. If you start to speculate, maybe you set standards for the game by itself that it doesn't meet. But I guess at the same time, any sort of announcement is going to do that.
Yeah, and especially as you for games that are coming out that are part of a series, it's nearly impossible to look at the coming of a game objectively. So when Halo 5 was announced, you're immediately thinking, okay, well, how did I feel about Halo 3? How did I feel about Halo Reach and Halo 4? And all these other Halo games, and you think, okay, which ones did I have the most fun in? What are the aspects of this game that I really enjoy and that I hope they include in the new one? And then, where has the storyline gone? Where could they possibly continue on with the storyline, et cetera, et cetera? And so you already start kind of thinking of your own like personalized game that's coming out. And when the game comes out and it doesn't meet your own kind of personalized expectation, that's where the disappointment comes in. And so, yeah, like you were saying, it definitely is part of just speculation that in some ways can ruin a game or at least make it seem not as good as it potentially could be.
Yeah, but I at least from my opinion, I feel like showing gameplay too early does that more than just announcing the game.
Yep.
Because when you speculate, yeah, you can imagine, but you're not setting standards based on what you've seen. You're setting standards based on what it could be. So then when you see something of it, you compare your standards to what you see. And then eventually it's not like you're speculating off of what it could be. I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to say this. Like, your speculation is of what you think it could be versus what you're thinking of it from what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well,
does.
it's like it takes away the visualizing of the game. So if you don't see any gameplay of it, and let's say it's a new series, then you have no idea what the setting's going to be, how the gameplay is going to work, what the storyline is, all that kind of stuff. But if they give you, as soon as they give you gameplay footage, or they say, like with the new Doom, when they were saying like, here's the first 10 minutes of gameplay or something like that. You already see, okay, this is what the surroundings is going to look like. This is the setting. This is what the gameplay kind of looks like. This is how the controls are going to flow in combat. Then they've already taken away the visualizing process, and so you're building on top of what they've already given you. And so that's, like I was saying earlier, it's like that's where a lot of the disappointment comes in. When they do it too early and then it doesn't meet expectation.
Yeah, because you see something and like you may hate. Well, I also think that kind of goes both ways. 'Cause I just thought about it as I said that is like you visualize if you see the gameplay too early, you're like, well, this is what the setting looks like, and if you really like the setting, you build off the setting. You're like, oh my gosh, it could be this and it could be this and oh my gosh, and that's when you get the disappointment. But if you don't like the setting from the gameplay, then you're not interested in it.
Yeah, it's like when like the best example I can think of would be like when Guitar Hero was it Legends, I think, No, what is the new one? Live, right? Guitar Hero Live, I think, is the newest one that's
Yes.
out right now, and they changed the guitar on it. Actually, like instead of being 5 buttons, it's 6 buttons, but it's not like 5 in a row. It's like 3 in a row and then 3 underneath it as well. It's some weird, game mechanic. And when I saw that, I was like, I don't like this at all.
No.
Like I've been playing Guitar Hero since the second one. I'm like, I'm already used to playing with 5 buttons. I've played Rock Band, all of them. Like this has kind of been the norm now for music games. Even though these are pretty much the only two that are competing. But then they changed the formula a little bit, and then I'm like, well, this doesn't seem like my kind of game anymore. So I'm just gonna shy away from it. Whereas
Yeah.
if they just said like,
I said the
oh,
same
it's a
thing
new
about
Guitar
that.
Hero game, I'm like, what could it possibly be?
And
And then
then
I'm like super excited, and then I wait to get disappointed.
that's a valid point too. I mean, there's definitely it's an argument for everything. I'm sure publishers do all their focus groups
Yeah.
and stuff to figure all this stuff out. But anyway, so any closing thoughts on anything you guys want to say?
Half-Life 3 is still not confirmed, so my life is not yet complete.
So would you say it's a Half-Life?
No, it's like a 80%.
I was gonna make a Half-Life 3 joke, but it escaped me.
Oh, wow.
I know it's. I know. I'm sorry. I'd love to end on a good joke.
I was
but
gonna make a point to your Half-Life 3 joke, but it doesn't exist.
What, the point or that Half-Life 3?
The joke.
Yeah, okay. That was bad. See?
I was
See
I
how
was
that
I
backfired?
was making fun of him for not having a joke.
Well, would you like me to tell a joke? Because
I would make a point on your Half-Life 3 joke, but it didn't exist. There you go. That's what I didn't say it right. Anyway,
Yeah. See, it's not as funny.
do you have a joke, Birdman?
That depends. How do you want it to be clean, or do you want it to be?
And
okay.
there's where we're gonna not even go.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Factually Opinionated podcast.
Yes,
Thank
episode
y'all.
4. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to the Factually Opinionated
Man,
podcast.
it's like I just said that.
I know,
Okay, he
but that's
just
not your
said that.
job.
Come on, Matt.
That's not your job, Extreme.
Whoa,
It's my job. I'm
I
the
already did
host. I'm
So
important.
thank you guys so much for listening to the Factually Opinionated podcast. I've been Extreme Psychosis.
What are you
I-
now?
What?
I said you've been Extreme Psychosis. What are you now?
I didn't say I've changed. I've been throughout the podcast Extreme Psychosis.
No, okay.
I continue to be Extreme Psychosis.
I continue to exist, unlike Half-Life 3.
Yes. Birdman, anything?
Uh,
That's what I thought.
y'all enjoy your day.
Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Factually Opinionated podcast. Again, Factually Opinionated podcast comes out every day, or every day.
Yes,
every
every
week.
day.
Every day,
let's
every day,
record
you can
5
see our
more.
wonderful faces and hear us talk.
Every week on Mondays, and we give you the latest gaming news. Don't forget to hit that like if you've liked what you've seen. There's a subscribe button. It's down there. If you would like to see more and get notifications when we release content.
This
Again, we
studio does
release.
not endorse Nolanova's impersonations of other people.
We can't control him on that, so
You
we've
don't control
tried.
me.
It
No one controls me.
Tell that to Timber.
Ooh.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think Timber can control me. Anyway, but
I'm refraining from saying anything because I know I can make this worse. I'm sorry, but
oh gosh. Anyway, so again, thank you for tuning in, guys. This is Nolanova signing off.
Bye.